The Mitchell family drew attention wherever they went. A respected black couple with two biological children and their adopted white daughter Emma for 20 years. They endured cruel whispers and judgments from their community. When Marcus Sr. suddenly became critically ill, Emma vanished without explanation for 3 days. The doctor's announcement left everyone speechless. The Mitchell family was well respected within their community. Diane, a dedicated nurse, and her husband Marcus Sr., a high school teacher, had built a good life with their 2 children, Marcus Jr. and Zora. Their home was filled with love and laughter until everything changed. It all started when Diane was finishing her night shift at the hospital. A colleague called her to the nursery, where a tiny newborn girl lay swaddled in a pink blanket, abandoned just hours after birth. The baby, with wisps of blonde hair and pale skin, opened her eyes and seemed to gaze directly into Diane's soul. That evening, Diane couldn't stop thinking about the abandoned baby and described the encounter to Marcus Sr. After several deep conversations and family meetings, the Mitchells decided to adopt the baby girl, whom they named Emma. From the outset, the Mitchells understood that adding a white child to their black family would raise eyebrows and invite scrutiny, but they weren't prepared for how swift and harsh the judgment would be. Friends suddenly became too busy to visit. At church, where they had been active members for years, people whispered as they passed by with baby Emma. Their small, close-knit community started greeting them from afar and murmuring behind their backs. Even more painful were the reactions from extended family members. At a family reunion, Diane overheard her own cousin suggesting Emma would be better off with parents who looked like her. The implication was clear: blood and race mattered more than love. At school, Marcus Jr. and Zora encountered their own challenges. Classmates teased them about their new sister, claiming she wasn't truly their sibling. But instead of driving them apart, these challenges drew them closer. Marcus Jr. became fiercely protective of his baby sister, while Zora proudly showed off pictures of Emma to anyone willing to look. As Emma grew, Marcus Sr. made sure to have honest conversations about race. When Emma was 5 and asked why her skin didn't match her parents', Marcus Sr. explained that families come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. What mattered wasn't whether they shared the same skin tone, but the love they had for each other. The Mitchells built a home where all 3 children were treated equally and where differences were celebrated. They attended every school event, cheered at every sports game, and helped with every homework assignment. To anyone observing closely, it was obvious that Emma was not treated any differently from Marcus Jr. or Zora. Over the years, the initial shock of the Mitchell family's composition gradually faded in their community. Emma matured into a confident young woman who excelled academically. By high school, she had decided to follow her mother's footsteps into medicine. She worked tirelessly, earning top grades and volunteering at the local hospital. The day Emma was accepted into medical school was one of the proudest moments for the Mitchell family. They hosted a celebration dinner, inviting friends and family who had stood by them through it all. Notably absent were those who initially questioned their decision to adopt Emma. Medical school proved challenging, but Emma persisted. After 4 grueling years, she graduated with honors and began her residency at a prestigious hospital. The future looked bright for the Mitchell family. Then, suddenly, their world was turned upside down. Marcus Sr. began experiencing unusual fatigue. The diagnosis was devastating: a rare kidney disease that was progressing rapidly. He needed a transplant, and needed it urgently. The search for a compatible donor began immediately. Marcus Jr. and Zora were tested, hoping to be matches for their father. Days later, the results returned negative for both. The family was shattered. Marcus Sr. was placed on the transplant waiting list, but they were told the wait could be years, time he simply didn't have. Emma was particularly affected by this news. As a resident doctor, she understood the medical realities better than anyone without telling anyone. Emma scheduled herself for testing as a potential donor. Despite having no biological connection to Marcus Sr., she felt compelled to try. A week later, Emma received news that seemed nothing short of miraculous. Despite not being biologically related, she was a compatible match for Marcus Sr. Yet, another significant obstacle stood in their way: the family's limited health insurance coverage, which wouldn't cover the full transplant costs. The out-of-pocket expenses would total tens of thousands of dollars. In their darkest hour, Emma disappeared without a trace. For 3 agonizing days, she was unreachable. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her apartment sat empty. She hadn't shown up for her hospital shifts. The timing couldn't have been worse. Marcus Jr. was furious, pacing the living room and insisting that the pressure had been too much for Emma. Maybe she wasn't as committed to their family as they thought. Zora defended her sister, but couldn't explain her sudden disappearance. Diane could barely sleep, constantly checking her phone for any sign of Emma. Despite his weakening condition, Marcus Sr. kept reassuring everyone that Emma would never abandon them, though doubt was beginning to creep into his voice. The community that had rallied around them now whispered that perhaps blood truly was thicker than water after all. Maybe the white girl they raised had shown her true colors when things got tough. The old judgments resurfaced with renewed vigor. On the evening of the 3rd day, as the family sat in grim silence around the dinner table, Emma walked in exhausted but with a strange determination in her eyes. Without explanation, she asked everyone to gather in the living room immediately. The atmosphere was thick with tension, a mix of relief, anger, and confusion. Marcus Jr. stood with his arms crossed, demanding to know where she had been when their father's time was running out. Emma took a deep breath and finally spoke. The news she delivered stunned everyone. She was a compatible donor match for her father. She could give him one of her kidneys. The family froze in disbelief before bursting into tears of shock and joy. But Emma wasn't finished. She explained the financial challenges they faced. The siblings immediately began organizing community fundraisers, bake sales, car washes, benefit concerts. Emma took on the heaviest burden despite her demanding hospital schedule. Her dedication was unwavering. Yet, she always pointed back to the community effort. As the Mitchells shared their father's story, the community that had once judged their family was now rallying around them. Former critics became their most vocal supporters, and donations poured in from unexpected sources. On the day of the surgery, the waiting room was filled with supporters. Emma was taken to prepare for the procedure first, leaving her belongings with Zora. As Zora held Emma's phone, she noticed an email confirming approval of a large personal loan. What Zora discovered left her speechless. Emma had secretly used her entire life savings and taken out a substantial loan against her future earnings as a doctor to cover most of the transplant costs. The surgery was successful. At Marcus Sr.'s homecoming celebration, Emma thanked everyone for their support and for finally seeing what she had always known, that family transcends blood and skin color. She explained that saving her father's life was the greatest gift she could give the man who had chosen her when others wouldn't. The story of the Mitchells transformed their community's understanding of family. People who once questioned their decision to adopt Emma now witnessed a profound bond that connected them. They asked too are that sometimes the most beautiful connections are the ones we choose, regardless of blood or appearance. What would you be willing to sacrifice for someone who chose you when the rest of the world turned away?